got us another hit. Yep.
Way the way the West is covering him is really interesting. I um I wanted to see that, and I typed his name in before I started the show, and I was looking at the headlines. Let me see if I can see. Okay, here. First headline, it says Ibrahim Traore inside the digital cult glorifying Burkina Faso's something. That's the part of the thing. The Caribbean political scene and support for President Ibrahim Traore. Fact check: Serb anti-government protests falsely labeled French. Um, I can only see part of the headlines, but all three of those were kind of negative. Why Washington is worried about Burkina Faso's young president. Africa in Focus special. Why the white man wants to kill Ibrahim Traore. That came from Modern Ghana. That's a news organization. The first one was the Africa Repos, WEAEAA, Routers, Mint Press, in the order that I said them. Another one, it says disinformation fuels support for Burkina Faso's junta leader. The Serbian protest video falsely associated with pro Traore rally.
That is strange. It's all
So
very strange. Well,
yeah,
I mean,
man. Go ahead.
they can make it as muddy as they want. But I mean, just a quick look at history and how things go. I mean, you already got to give it. You already got to give it to him because the history is that if Africa try to do something by themselves, somebody somewhere in the rest of the world is gonna try to stop them. So that's that's just granted, right? The thing is the thing to watch is like, okay, how and why did he do it? Because he's next to Mali, a country that had a horrible collapse. I don't even think it was too far ago. I'd have to look it up whether it was a decade or decades. But Mali was in trouble, had a weird thing going on. The fact that they're just north of some of the most like egregiously raped countries in that whole region, the Ivory Coast, Togo, all that. Um, it it's automatically a fuzzy topic. So I really don't know how to call it. However, I do know one thing and two for sure. If you've got a history of instability, the the only way you're going to prove it to the rest of the world is by holding on. Which I mean, not to jump, you know, too deep, too fast, but that's why I think it's really interesting that he was keeping up with his promises, keeping up with his promises, keeping up with his promises until he postponed his elections. Like he had planned elections like in the late spring of last year, late spring, summer, early summer last year. He planned those. And the end result of that was nope, I'm gonna stay in control for 5 more years. And everybody it was a little
Yeah,
side
but
eye to it. But then what are you gonna
and
do when you oh go ahead.
I get why he did that, because that I noticed that too, and I was like, that's gonna be that's gonna not look good overall. But he was like, man, this is not a democracy, man. This is a revolution. Like I'm trying to bring stability to my people or whatever. And you see, they've already tried to coup him multiple times. So
Yeah.
what would have happened had they did have elections and somebody else came in there, and then the West got their little tentacles into the situation, and the whole thing could have went left. You know, the
Oh,
the
for
the
sure.
life of the people in Burkina Faso has continued to improve since Traore had got in there. So I think he made the right decision. I mean, once they're
Absolutely.
fortified and solid, because they're they're in the process of decolonization, and it's like that's a shaky ground, and we talk about all of these countries and people say that, oh, they've already been decolonized. No, I mean, on paper, yes, but if the French still speak French as their official language, if the French are still, in control of their resources, their gold and so forth and so on, they're telling them what to do and how to live, how their culture should be. They're steadily extracting wealth. I mean, what's the difference between that and being a colony?
And they tried to kill him again last November.
Yeah,
I mean,
he had
so
a
yeah,
attempted coup just a week ago or so ago. The
yeah.
guy
So
who one of his main bodyguards, they offered him, like, I don't know, it was a large sum of money
eight
in the millions
point
of dollars.
7 million.
Yeah, so and he went directly and told Traore, hey, this is what's going on. And he was like, man, keep the money, and he kept the money and split it up between him and the rest of the bodyguards, and it's like, your circle got to be tight in these